From inside the Banner offices along the Inner Harbor, it is the Banner Ravens podcast. Paul Mancano and Jonas Shaffer, joined by Giana Han here to preview Ravens training camp. Guys, we are a week away from getting media access, but there are players already reporting to one winning drive. We are going to look ahead to what should be an exciting month plus of Ravens training camp, and we are going to have a fun little exercise for you at the end where we are going to draft 3 teams of flag football Ravens teams. I don't know how we're going to do it. We don't entirely know how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure it out, and you're going to figure it out along with us while you listen. Guys, you know what I just realized as I was walking to this room here, coming from the kitchen at our Banner offices? I'm terrible at the sidewalk shuffle. I'm perhaps the worst person that's ever existed when it comes to the sidewalk shuffle. I'm the opposite of Lamar Jackson.
What made you think about this?
I almost ran into like 4 people on the way. Like, I am so bad with predicting which left or right side people are going to go on. And I always end up in an, sorry. And I'm bad with holding the door. I'm bad with figuring all that out. You would think I'd be able to gotten it down at 30 years on this planet before, but I'm terrible at it.
You need to spend more time near Lamar. Maybe his greatness will.
That's what I'm saying. If anybody's great at the sidewalk shuffle, it's got to be Lamar Jackson. Somebody who's able to predict where people are going.
I didn't know it had a defined alliterative name, Paul.
The sidewalk shuffle?
Yeah, I thought you were talking about a dance or something.
I did at first think you were talking about a dance.
I've heard of, I don't know where I first heard the term sidewalk shuffle, but
I mean, it's kind of like a dance.
Yeah, it's a dance.
The way I do it is.
Literally.
How do you do it, Jonas? Do you do a Euro step when you go past people?
That's behind the Patreon.
He just keeps walking until someone moves around him.
Yeah. Jonas is the king. All right, guys, let's dive into Ravens training camp preview because it's time to hand out our Who's Got It Better Than award. And this week it goes to the Ravens rookies who are already at training camp right now. They reported on July 15th to Owings Mills. Veterans don't report until July 22nd. So in addition to getting Ravens rookie minicamp, they also have to get to regular training camp early. Such is the life for a rookie in the NFL.
And they had to stay after minicamp longer.
Yeah, true. It's like being a freshman in high school all over again.
Yeah, they're getting paid to do it, so they're getting the free meals.
They don't get paid as much as the veterans, though.
No.
I did say the Hard Knocks, if it taught me anything, is that they are still that they're basically still in college, just their major is football.
Sure. They
go to class, they have to take notes,
and
do their homework.
I think their college experience was a little bit different from everybody else's, however.
Yeah. But now they're doing the same thing minus all the classes.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're just studying football.
Yeah. Will this is kind of as a overarching question for this training camp. Are we looking ahead to what should be a thrilling Ravens training camp? Or is this going to be a training camp that's going to be a little bit low on storylines? What do you guys think?
You want me to go first?
Why don't you go first?
I mean, if you are really
That was the sidewalk shuffle verbally.
But we figured it out. If you're very passionate about O-line play, it could be a very exciting camp as you watch to see who will take over for Patrick McCary. But
that was what we were saying last year too.
Yeah, but beyond that, I mean, but last year it was like five positions or 3 out of 5 positions open. Now we have 1. We have maybe some candidates who could, be in the lead, but we don't know for sure. But again, there's only like 2 position battles. Maybe, I guess, I think it could be interesting seeing how the secondary plays out now that they have Jair. And it'll be an entertaining training camp in terms of seeing some of these stars, D-Hop and Jair coming, and they call him Cheeto, so I'm just gonna go with that.
I think I'm pretty sure we've been mispronouncing his first name this entire time, but we can
Cheeto Bay.
I wasn't sure.
It's a little bit more flared.
Harbaugh called him Cheeto, so I will call him Cheeto.
Cheeto Awuzie. Yeah.
Just like seeing if he can stay healthy and what that looks like. So there are some interesting storylines, but it's not anywhere near last year. It's more like we're searching for these interesting storylines. You can get excited about these rookies that you're talking about, but at the same time, how many of them are actually going to make the team? So I think when it comes to battles, it's not that exciting, but you could generate some excitement also because they're going to be really good. And that's always exciting. but it might not be exciting until they actually get to the place where it matters, aka playoffs. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you've seen one 53-man roster projection in late July, early August, it's going to be the exact same thing that you see, no matter who's writing it, barring injuries throughout the entirety of training camp and the preseason. So I think I'm probably most excited for just like the opportunities, and hopefully the Ravens will actually put these on display, just the one-on-ones, because you'll get even more the star factor and all this. I think it's going to be ramped up even more from last year. You've got, like Giana said, the wide receivers versus the cornerbacks. You've got Marlon Humphrey in there, Kyle Hamilton, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Walker, TJ Tampa.
How many members
Cheeto.
of the team can you name right now?
Like there's going to be a lot of name brand value to those. And then, you also, if you venture over at the right time, you'll get one-on-ones with, offensive line play, defensive line play too. So you'll get Mike Green against Rosengarten. You'll see the new, bigger, hopefully improved Odafe Owe against Ronnie Stanley. You'll see some nice interior guys like if Aeneas Peebles is able to flash. And just the kind of size mismatch of a Falele versus a Peebles would be, I think, really interesting to see.
Fub.
Yeah.
So I think there's not going to be a lot of spots up for grabs. I mean, I'm sure we'll spend a little bit of time talking about is Bilal Kone going to make this team? Is Robert Longerbeam going to make this team? Because there's just not a lot of space at the end of this roster, even for the rookie class. But, as we've talked about, this is probably the most talented roster in the NFL. If not top one, then definitely top two, definitely top three. And hopefully the Ravens will put themselves in situations where we can actually evaluate best against best.
Well, the tough part is as well for fans who are following on their phone, who are reading, who are watching coverage from training camp, they don't get the full picture that we do because there are limitations to what we're allowed to video, what we're allowed to cover, what we're allowed to talk about. And unless it comes up in a question for one of the coaches, for one of the players, for John Harbaugh, we're not able to tell fans directly who's playing with which team. So when you have guys who are fighting for final roster spots, you have guys who are fighting for starting spots, fans at home might not get the full picture of, okay, well, this guy's leading competition. Andrew Voorhees has really jumped out to the lead because he's getting a lot of first team reps at guard, or, Tyler Loop, is the main kicker for, when the Ravens go on an offensive possession. So it's difficult for fans to get a full, complete picture of exactly what's going on here because we have our hands tied a little bit as to what we're allowed to express to the fans.
Yeah. I mean, you can see maybe some of those one-on-ones that we're allowed. Are we allowed to do one-on-ones?
We're not allowed to record them.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see the individuals. So you can be like, well, DeAndre Hopkins looks really fast out there by himself with no one to compare him to. But that's pretty much it. And then it will help us inform our reporting and our projections and stuff. But yeah, we can't tell you exactly who is starting. So that just, I guess, amps up the drama. If we're talking about the exciting, no one knows who's in charge, who's in the lead.
Yeah.
And so maybe the 53-man roster will be something crazy, and we have no clue.
Yeah. Well, and then when it comes to the preseason, we saw just how careful the Ravens coaches were in terms of playing their starters during the preseason. 3 preseason games, and they were very reticent to play the main guys. They were, Lamar Jackson didn't play at all. Derrick Henry didn't play at all. And it wasn't until first game at Kansas City that we really got to look at the first team offense, first team defense. And that mattered not only when it comes to the star players out there, it mattered when it came to the first grouping on the offensive line for a position group that was not fully formed at the start of training camp. We didn't really know what that final group was going to be until they showed the nation what that final group was going to be.
Yeah, I do feel like the offensive line it didn't play out exactly as I expected it to.
Yeah.
I don't think I expected, I don't know about you, McCary to be a starter. I thought that because they talk so much about how much they like him as that 6th offensive lineman, they can plug in anywhere. And then he ended up playing all the games. So.
Yeah. And Ben Cleveland saw more time at center than he did at either guard spot. And obviously they spent the entire preseason with Falele getting snaps inside. So we didn't really have any time seeing him experiment back at right tackle, and obviously that's still going to be the case this year.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the biggest storylines coming into training camp. And guys, one of the big spots that has been talked about for the last 5 or 6 months has been kicker, really for the last year, going back a lot to the struggles that Justin Tucker had on the field last season, whether the Ravens could bring in another kicker. Obviously, he's no longer on the roster. You got two guys now who are battling it out in John Hoyland and Tyler Loop. Tyler Loop has the draft pedigree, whereas Hoyland was picked up after the draft ended. But to me, there's not really, going into just training camp, looking at the roster, there's not really any one guy who has a definitive edge, because Loop is a 6th round pick. It's not like he has a huge leg up, pun intended, over Hoyland.
I think the 6th round pick doesn't necessarily mean anything, just because I don't think you're drafting a kicker much higher, although they did draft Stout higher, right? As
4th round.
Yeah.
So, okay, maybe they can. But he does have that mark of approval from Randy Brown, where he said, if we draft one kicker, I want it to be this guy. And it wasn't Hoyt. So, you know, he does have that. But I remember there was one day where, like, John Hoyt was doing really poorly. And I was like, oh, like, this isn't going to be that much of a battle. And then there was a day where Loop just, you know, Hoyland, sorry, I was like trying to figure out Hoyland. But yeah, he was just like missing a ton. And then, but they were doing every other day. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. And then they go to Loop, and with Bishotti right there, he missed a ton. And they were from far out. We realized they had the like portable field goal pretty far back, but it's still, you know, a little bit concerning, but he is young. So we'll see. I think we're just so spoiled having watched Justin Tucker. For whatever else, he was a very good kicker. And when he came in, which I don't remember because that was a long time ago, but from everything I read, it took him one day to fix everything. And that's just not realistic. So there are some unrealistic expectations. But I also think that this kicking battle isn't fully over between just the two of them. I could see them bringing in a veteran. There's just something to be said to have that like clutch NFL experience that you can't replicate with a rookie. And, you know, he might, you know, really catch on the regular season, but that still doesn't tell you how he's going to do in playoffs when, you know, the games are on the line. So I mean, I feel like it's all up in the air. And I didn't really expect that. I mean, I expected them to say there was a competition, but I didn't expect it to like actually be a competition.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the closest thing we have to what's going on in Cleveland, where the Browns media is breathlessly reporting every rep, and you know,
at a different position.
Yeah, reciting the QB stats for all 4 of those guys who are in the competition there. It's obviously easy for us to tabulate because Tyler Loop probably won't be kicking more than 7 or 8 times a practice in the quote unquote live situations. But you know, it's easy for fans to ride this roller coaster with us. Obviously, we don't really have to pay too much attention to it because they're not going to take as big a spot on center stage as Lamar or whoever's going to be out there on defense. So I don't think, you know, certainly people will overreact. I think probably what's most important is what these guys do in preseason, and hopefully the offense is good enough in whoever's out there to actually put these guys in a position to go out there and knock a couple field goals through. But I mean, if it's, you know, a full week of Tyler Loop hitting under 80% from field goals, and they're makeable field goals, it's not like they're 50 plus yarders, then there's going to be some real agitation in this fan base. And I guess, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about Loop 1,000 times until week 1, but in terms of setting like a threshold for him, would you guys take as a rookie his accuracy from his career at Arizona, 83.8%? Would you guys take that if you're the Ravens as a year 1 kicker, knowing everything that's at stake for the Ravens, or would you shoot for higher?
To me, I think it's not just percentage, it's your situational, and it's also from distance. I mean, I think that Justin Tucker, not only was he great percentage-wise, the most accurate kicker in NFL history, but as we know, he was also outstanding from beyond 50 yards. And to me, I just, that's one of those areas that you're not going to be able to really test it until you see it. So it's more than just straight percentage for me. Okay, if he hits, you know, 80% of his kicks, but he is nails from 52 yards, that matters more to me than having a higher percentage.
I should say that I did slack this to Giana last night because I found it very charming. But I guess last week was the Ravens social media day Instagram drops where everyone got their glitzy action photos. And of course, Title Loop put up his little carousel of photos. And the top comment was Jordan Stout saying, "I can't wait for people to see the greatness that is Title Loop!" Exclamation point.
All right.
So cute. That does remind me, I will point out that we both talked to kicking experts after they drafted Loop. And I know that who I talked to mentioned that a lot of his misses last season were because of the snap and hold operation, and that it's obviously higher here. And so maybe he's getting used to the snap and hold. Maybe they're getting used to him. Maybe everyone was breaking it down, and we don't know for sure if they were the reason. But, if that goes poorly, that could mean that they're the reason. It would take a much more trained eye than me to be able to say that. But back to the percentage question, 83.8% would be better than Tucker last year. So you would improve a little bit. But would you improve enough to be able to justify, not to get too much into this, but that it was a football decision that they cut him? If it's really only a 3%, almost 4% improvement, I don't really know. Improval, that's a new word.
That's a word of the day.
Yeah, I don't know. And you're mentioning from the yardage, which, making 50 plus yards would be big. But if you're not making the close ones, isn't that even worse? Because that's when you're expecting that you can do it. If you just need a game-winning field goal against the Steelers from 30 yards out, you want to know that he can make that if it's 30 and not be inconsistent there.
Yeah. So. Let's be honest. Justin Tucker at times last year cost the Ravens games. There were games that could have been wins that were losses had he made more field goals. And the question is just how much of an impact is the kicking game going to have this year? Is the Ravens offense going to be so dominant that we are not talking about so many close margins where the Ravens have to scrape out these wins just to get into the playoffs or just to try to get the 1 seed, and all of a sudden it falls on the leg of a rookie kicker? Or are we going to be saying, hey, this is suddenly a critical position and we're going into December and this is still a spot that the Ravens haven't really figured out? It's going to be a fascinating thing that we haven't talked about in a while.
It's so relevant because last year we don't know, when they said Tucker fixed everything, we don't know if he actually did because the offense was so dominant they didn't need him.
Yeah.
So we never saw him kick. We saw him kick a few times.
He did kick. He did not miss a kick after.
Yeah, but it was a few times in several games. It wasn't as many as before. So.
Yeah. Another big storyline for this training camp as well. Lamar Jackson has another contract extension on the horizon, and hopefully this will be a quicker situation to resolve itself than the last time we were in this situation just a couple years ago. But guys, do you expect Lamar to put pen to paper on a new deal before training camp and before he reports to training camp or during training camp, or is this gonna drag itself out?
I think Giana and I are both out of the Lamar Jackson prognostication game.
You just stop trying.
Yeah, it's pointless at this point. You know that he's at least going to be in the building, so Eric DaCosta will have proximity working in his factor. We don't know if how many times he's slept down to South Florida this offseason to try to get the framework of a deal established. Obviously, Eric DaCosta, I think, told Jerry Coleman this offseason that they're at least in the beginning stages of an extension, but we don't know what that means in terms of percentage, how close they are to a deal, what kind of work they've done in the past couple of weeks to get closer to that finish line. Obviously, like we talked about, they have what you would call a framework of a potential extension with the Josh Allen deal. You could say that was kind of a team-friendly deal and that maybe Lamar might be asking not for a little bit more, but significantly more. But they're both in similar spots in their careers. Lamar's looking for a Super Bowl. Josh Allen's looking for Super Bowl. Everyone's looking for the guarantee of new money. And certainly Eric DaCosta needs a more team-friendly escalation of that salary cap, because the jump that Lamar's deal would take from this year to next year is pretty preventative in terms of getting other stuff done.
I don't know about you guys, but I spent a few hours reading through that released paper of the collusion. I have to say I was very fascinated by some of Lamar's negotiating tactics, which one of the lead ones was that his phone doesn't work.
I'm glad these mics work, Paul.
And for now, I could always shut it off, Jonas, if you.
And
You'd like that,
he
wouldn't you?
definitely- Well, you would have. Do you have the money to get a new mic?
That's the thing. I don't have the $200 million that
Exactly. But I don't know if that negotiation tactic works if you're in the building. So he won't be able to lean on that. But yeah, I mean, the market is ever changing. And Harbaugh said, I believe, at annual meetings that whenever he expects Lamar to get his contract extension, he expects him to set the market again, to have the biggest deal. So, I mean, that's nice to hear from Lamar's camp, which is just Lamar and his mom. But then of course there's all this stuff about guaranteed money and I don't know. It's just as these deals are getting higher, which as we saw, it's gonna jump to like 79 million right next year. Are we at the 49?
I think it jumps to over 70 million.
Yeah, and so the less room you have for some of these other players that you need to be able to win a Super Bowl. So if he really wants a Super Bowl, he's going to need to be amenable and create that room, that salary cap space to be able to bring in other stars around him. Because Lamar can do a lot, but this is one sport where he can't do it all.
Yeah,
he can't win a Super Bowl on his own.
As a quick aside, just a kind of low simmer storyline that is related to what you were just talking about, Giana. Like I wonder if Lamar, Ryan Stanley, Marlon Humphrey, these guys who, if they're not involved with the NFLPA, have certainly been entangled with them, if they'll have any comments on what was revealed in the collusion findings by Pablo Torre. Obviously, I think the biggest impediment to labor change is just people caring, and obviously that is probably still the case for the Ravens and the NFL at large, just the rank and file caring about what was actually reported, what's actually been done. But if Lamar had this relationship fractured because of either Demore Smith moving on, or him not feeling like those guys went to bat for him, or just the fact that this got out in the first place, maybe there's a misguided sense of blame, then that would be kind of curious to know about.
Yeah. It just seems untenable for any team to be carrying a guy on their roster who has a $75 million cap hit. Like Gianna, you said that Lamar Jackson does next year and the year after that, 2026 and 2027. The one that he currently has a $43 million cap hit for this season. So
it's interesting to me, like his value of the Super Bowl versus more guaranteed money versus not caring about the money because he didn't show up to OTAs to get his money. So I don't know. I would love to like get a peek inside his mind.
Wouldn't we all? Let's talk about some guys that we're excited to watch at this training camp. I think it starts with the obvious, the new guys. And when you bring in multiple time Pro Bowlers at wide receiver, at cornerback, those guys are going to draw a lot of attention. Jair Alexander, obviously, we have yet to talk to. Hoping to hear from him soon and get an insight into why he chose Baltimore, maybe left some money on the table. And then DeAndre Hopkins, how does he feel about how things went in Kansas City last year? He has mostly, played the company line and not gotten into anything that might have gone wrong last year in the second half of the year and in the playoffs with the Chiefs. But I'm interested to see how his chemistry develops with Lamar Jackson and how he thinks he could maybe get a little bit of the fountain of youth back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the wide receivers and the EBs are the most box office proposition in this for this entire exercise, because if you were to say a Mike Green or you were to say an Andrew Voorhees, those guys, it's really tough to judge until the pads actually come on, and you have to wait like a week and a half for that to actually matter. And even then, it's tough for us, especially with the interior guys, to tell who's doing what and who's winning. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun to see DeAndre Hopkins. It's fun to see Jair Alexander. Hopefully both those guys are healthy and up to speed with everything. If we get a couple, outside one-on-ones,
that'd be awesome.
All the better. I think ironically, the one drawback of the Ravens taking Malachi Starks and pairing him with Kyle Hamilton is that if they are as good as we think they are, then Lamar and the other guys probably won't be too encouraged to throw deep, which means that it's going to be a lot of like 5 to 15 yard passes, which is like fine, but you want to see some fireworks, not just little checkdowns to Isaiah Likely. So it's going to be fun to see those guys. Just obviously a rookie class this big. There are a lot of guys who might catch our eyes in ways that they kind of didn't during OTAs and minicamp.
Gianna, who are you excited to watch?
I mean, I'm excited to see what Jair can look like if he can stay healthy. I think that's the key. Also with Cheeto. And I think that kind of going back to what we were just talking about with the goal of the Super Bowl and a quarterback with a big salary, you need guys like Jair who will come in and maybe take some less money and their talent exceeds how much they're costing. So if this works out, I think it can be a big deal. But I'm also, I kind of mentioned earlier, excited to see how the secondary plays out because they have so many options now in terms of cornerbacks. They don't have as many options with safety. They do like Kyle up in the box, but then Marlon can play inside. So like they have a lot of mix and matching. When it comes to the corners, like how is that going to affect the safeties? So I'm excited to see what they look like and some of those battles with the wide receivers because as Jonas mentioned, that's really the only thing we can watch.
Yeah.
Because you see guys running at each other inside, but then they can't actually like touch each other. So
yeah, not real football.
Yeah, it'll be kind of like flag football, as we'll talk about later. But yeah, and I mean, DeAndre Hopkins sharing how fast he was, like, does that line up when they're all going full speed and he's going against some of the vets who maybe didn't play as much during OTAs and minicamp? Because we saw a lot of, the Dayton Wades of the world. Shout out Dayton Wade. My pick for looked good at OTAs. But yeah, so I'm just excited to see what that looks like when they're actually going full speed and the element that he can bring, because where the other guys are so good at speed and route running, he's supposed to be more 50-50 ball. So like, what is that actually going to look like? And can he do that against the very talented secondary?
I think more of a preseason concern than a training camp concern is just the kicking game and the return game in general. Like we don't really know how that's going to shake out. Is it going to be Keaton Mitchell as the kick returner? Is it going to be LeJohntay Wester as the punt returner? And if it is Wester as the primary punt returner, is that enough for him to have a 53-man roster spot? Because not to keep beating a dead horse, but for as much hype as there is on Ravens Twitter about LeJohntay Wester, he did not really show us a whole lot in OTAs and minicamp. So hopefully his head is above water mentally now, and he can kind of get more of a groove with the passing game. But there's so many edge rushers that I think we're all curious to see. We want to see, does Adafe look even more explosive when he's got the pads on? Does Adisa Isaac, is he in a good place physically? Does he look more like he did at Penn State, where he did have some nice juice, and hopefully that hamstring injury was just a temporary setback, and it's not something that really limited him for the rest of his career. And then, Mike Green, first round talent fell out of the second round for a reason, but he still has that.
Fell into the second round.
Yeah, fell into the second round for good reason. But he has incredible get off. He could be a guy who just, you can tell, is a kind of different breed athletically when he's out there. I will encourage people not to overread to read too much into how these guys do in one-on-ones, because I remember just watching Adafe Owe go against Roger Rosengarten last year, and it seemed like Adafe won 80% of their reps, and maybe that was true for where they were in their development in July and in August, but by the time that Roger got into late September, early October, he was obviously a competent NFL level right tackle. So it could be that Mike Green is overwhelmed. It could be that Mike Green is overwhelming other people. But what really matters is just what these guys are able to do when the coaches actually ask them to step up on the field.
And I think the Ravens' first and second round picks in Malachi Starks and Mike Green have kind of opposite roles right now, because I think Mike Green could be a ceiling raiser for this team, and Malachi Starks could be a floor raiser. We saw last year just how much the Ravens struggled in the secondary at that other safety spot next to Kyle Hamilton, and how much it affected the secondary, going through a revolving door there. After you lost Ardarius Washington, Malachi Starks is going to be asked to play a lot of snaps and probably start right out the get-go. If he can just be competent, if he can be an above-average rookie at that spot, that will raise the floor for the secondary, for the entire defense. Mike Green probably won't be asked to do as much out of the gate unless he is gangbusters in training camp, but they already have a established rotation of guys there in KVN and Adafe Owe. If Mike Green, though, continues to develop and provide more and get stronger and really show why he was a first-round talent, that could raise the ceiling of the defense, because then all of a sudden you turn into an elite pass rushing unit. You have the secondary to go with it. You could be the best defense in the NFL. Let's talk about some guys that need to prove something this training camp. And let's start on that that pass rush group, because to me, this is the 8th summer in a row of going and talking about David Ojabo. When is he going to realize all the potential he showed at Michigan? And when is he going to take a leap? And last year we saw flashes, maybe more flashes than we'd seen previously, but we also saw the Ravens not trust him at times. In the second half of the season, he was healthy scratch for some of those games. To me, David Ojabo, this is really pedal to the metal. This is sink or swim time for him, because he is entering the final year of his deal, and he's got to figure out whether he has a home here in Baltimore or has a home in the NFL in general after this.
The storyline predates the banner.
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, here I mentioned Adisa Isaac and Mike Green. That's really putting the pressure on Ojabo, because
And Tavius too.
yeah. Oh, and Tavius, what was it, Chuck Smith, that said that he is like what the Ravens should be. And so you've got like a younger guy who is basically bypassed him, like Dennis Johnson. I'm like blanking on everyone's names today. Dennis Johnson was saying like he wishes he could have this huge group of D linemen and pass rushers, but realistically they can't, right? And so who got left out a lot last year is David Ojabo, and that was before Adisa Isaac was healthy and they could trust him. And so if you have Adisa and Mike Green in there, like he's going to be the last one out. They can't carry all of them every game. So he's either going to be on the inactives list or he might be fighting for that 53-man spot. They just can't carry that much. And I think you'd rather have those young guys that are showing that they can, as you mentioned, ceilings and floors, like they might have a higher ceiling, because David Ojabo has that base of like being very athletic, but he's not actually reaching that ceiling that they thought he had. And I think Adisa was picked for similar reasons, right? They were going for really super athletic guys. That's why they got Odafe. And they went with one of his friends, Ojabo, and then they went with one of his other friends, Adisa Isaac, and they are all extremely athletic. But it did take a while for Odafe to really reach that, and he still feels like he can do a lot better. He was not happy last season, despite having 10 sacks, until maybe he got to the 10 sacks. But even so, like if he felt like every game he could do better, And so it took them a while, but I think it's just he had more of a timeline than David Ojabo has, because there are more guys behind David that are kind of pushing right now. And there aren't any other, were there any losses, right? There weren't any other losses to position groups. So it's not like there's a guy coming in and a guy left. So it's just overflowing now.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine the Ravens keeping 6 outside linebackers on their roster, and I think we can be pretty comfortable in saying that they already have 5 locks right now between Odafe, Tavius, Adisa. Maybe he's a little bit closer to the bubble, but again, with this being year 2, I don't think they're going to cut bait that quickly. And then Kyle Van Noy, Mike Green, that's 5, and I think it's not very sexy and it's not very exciting. But like if Ojabo wants to help his case, he's got to find a way to contribute on special teams, unless he comes back looking like a new man on defense. Like he played 13 games last year, so he was active for the lion's share of games, but he got less than 30 total special team snaps. And if you are as athletic as we think he is, as a just run and jump athlete, you've got to be able to contribute in more than just situational roles as a pass rusher. So Lord knows the Ravens should have some opportunities for guys to step up on special teams after the disaster that was last year. But, special teams is about mentality. It's about technique. It's about attention to detail. And you just have to wonder, is he going to be far enough along in his development there, or is he going to be so focused on proving himself as a pass rusher that maybe he'll be a little bit stretched thin? So I think at this point, I probably have him on the outside looking in right now, just in terms of constructing this 53-man roster. I think on most teams, you would probably make space for a guy like him because of that potential. But if he can't be, a top 2 speed rusher on this team, then I don't know what kind of role you can edge out for him.
Another guy who has a pretty high range of outcomes as well. Somebody who I would say the upper echelon range of outcomes. He is a starter for this team, and he is a good starter for this team. But the lower echelon he is really fighting for playing time and might be a healthy scratch at times during the season. That's linebacker Trenton Simpson. He is facing a little bit more pressure this training camp than he was last year, where it felt like the job was mostly handed to him. Patrick Queen departs in.
He did play in the preseason, so
True. He played, I think, more than anybody else in the preseason as well. I think he led the Ravens defense in snaps in the preseason. So they gave him a lot of time to try to prove himself. But he won the job out of training camp. And then over the course of the season, he saw his playing time decrease. They added more bodies to that group. They did lose a couple key spots there, and Chris Board and Malik Harrison. They tried to replace them with Jacob Hummel, who is mostly a special teamer as well, and they drafted Teddy Buchanan. But to me, Trenton Simpson is, again, in a situation where he needs to be able to prove himself. He's probably going to play a lot of preseason snaps. We're going to see him in training camp. Hard for us to kind of glean how the inside linebackers do during training camp, but there is certainly a lot of pressure on Trenton Simpson during this summer.
He's another guy that, like, he has the look, right? Like we talked about David Ojabo looking very athletic, but if you don't actually do anything with it, but he does look even better than he did last year. And I guess the really big thing they're emphasizing is he's being more vocal, which is so important if you're a linebacker. And that was a huge thing they mentioned. That was a turnaround for the defense last year, was just the communication got better. So that could be good. And, Harbaugh has a lot of hope for him. I do think he makes the team no matter what, right? And I think he's someone that could, help on special teams. But Teddy Buchanan, he doesn't necessarily have the look, but he's been overlooked his whole career for that reason, for other reasons. And he has risen through the ranks. And I don't see why he's going to be a guy that will be very willing to step in on every special team. So I think he's going to make the team. He's going to impress with that willingness. And so he's going to be hot on Trenton's heels. And, I think that Zach Orr and Trenton Simpson have a good relationship. So maybe he'll give him some leeway. But if it starts to come down to it, they've shown they're not scared to bench people. Like, they will bench you if if there's someone behind you that's they think is going to outperform you. So he's going to kind of be in the hot seat all season.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, how good your abs look when the media day photos are being taken. It just matters like what you can do.
Thank God, because that would not be a good day for me.
Can you handle your BS when there's a run coming right at you, or there's a play action, going your way? I mean, we talked last week just about how much better Roquan got in coverage statistically when not only the safety position was stabilized, but when Trenton Simpson got off the field. It's just as simple as that. I don't think that the cause and direct is that clear, but certainly you could make the argument. And as we talked to Gordon McGinnis last year, Roquan graded out well in those advanced coverage grades, and a lot of the mistakes that he might have been responsible for were perhaps because he was trying to overcompensate for where Trenton should have been. So hopefully that this is an offseason of growth for Trenton Simpson. Obviously, to your point about communication, I think it was Zach who said that Trenton has been more vocal this year. Obviously, you want guys to be vocal in all the right ways and telling you what to do correctly, and not just putting you in a bad place because you're sure, and then that confidence is misplaced. But this is probably one of the weak spots, or one of the big question marks on this Ravens defense. And if there is a weak spot, then opponents aren't going to be afraid to pick at that wound, over and over again. So hopefully Trenton Simpson can be a little bit more competent in all phases of this game. We know that he is a terrific run, jump, hit athlete, but it's such a mental game. And that's part of the reason why I think we're both a little bit pessimistic about Teddy being able to make that jump from college, from the ACC especially, to the NFL in such a time where he can realistically contend for that starting position, at least in week one.
Yeah, a couple other guys who are facing a lot of pressure this training camp. Devin Leary, 6th round pick by the Ravens a year ago, and did not earn a roster spot last year. Now he is facing more competition ahead of him in the form of Cooper Rush. We're going to see a lot of Devin Leary, I have a feeling, during preseason games. So if you didn't like what you saw last year, maybe don't watch every snap of the preseason games this year, because we're going to see a lot more of him this year. And then Emory Jones Jr., a 3rd round rookie this year that we did not know the extent of his injury until as the summer has gone on. We have yet to see him. And so a guy that at a position where the Ravens have needed to add depth, they think they're getting somebody who can maybe swing back and forth between left tackle, between right tackle, maybe even be used inside if he's needed to. But how much are we really going to see Emory Jones Jr. on the field? That's going to be a big question.
Yeah, and I think they see if they have a competent person there, I think they would, give him the time to recover because they've learned the hard way. If you rush people back, it doesn't really serve a player well in the long run. And they're very focused on their health now because 2 years ago they had so many players go down. So I think that they would give him more patience. I will say with Devin Leary, the big question mark with him is his accuracy, right? Or maybe his decision making. He has a very
Maybe
powerful
both.
arm, but yes, he ends up throwing a lot of interceptions. However, while we were watching OTAs and minicamp, we got to see a lot of Cooper Rush because there was no Lamar Jackson, and he also throws a lot of interceptions. So I don't actually know at this point which one's better. I guess Cooper Rush is going against higher competition, but would you rather have a veteran guy throwing interceptions who maybe has more game experience, or your own homegrown guy that maybe has a little bit more opportunity for you to change his habits? I don't know. But I think, once again, as we talked about last year, if Lamar Jackson's not the one throwing the ball,
Yeah, we're
not looking at San Francisco.
I mean, I think the fact that they gave Cooper Rush a 2-year deal probably speaks to the fact they believe in him. I mean, he's started NFL games before, so they certainly would have more confidence right now if they had to insert him into a game. But maybe over the course of training camp, Devin Leary is able to improve on his issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big preseason for both those guys because you could argue that this is maybe Devin Leary's last chance to. I think, as you said, Gianna, he's a long shot to make the 53-man roster because they have so many roster spots that they're not going to devote 3 to Cooper unless they really feel like that they can, I don't know, trade him as soon as they finalize that 53-man roster with a third quarterback. But Devin, if he doesn't show something, then it's, I think, probably fair to assume that they're going to look for another developmental quarterback in next year's draft. And then, even with Cooper getting that 2-year deal, it's not like they would be beholden to keeping him on the roster next year. So they're not going to decide on his future based on a couple preseason games and, a dozen or so training camp practices. But if they don't like what they see from Cooper Rush, then they can probably cut bait pretty easily and not really wear that too much in the financials. So I think it's going to be a big July and August for just us and deciding on whether these guys are going to be around in Baltimore for longer than 2025.
Let's do the flag football draft, the exercise that Gianna pitched to us a few weeks ago. And it's all sparked by the fact that flag football is coming to the Olympics in 3 years in LA.
Yeah, July 14th, 2028 will be the first day of the Olympics. So we're
opening ceremonies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're 3 years out, maybe not of the first game, but I guess just to preface, so they haven't announced exactly the format yet, according to USA Flags page. So we don't know if it's going to be 5v5 or 6v6. For the purposes of exercise, we're going to go 5v5. And it's going to be mostly wide receiver skill position based. There is a center that can snap the ball, but then they become eligible to catch the ball. Also for the purposes of exercise, we're only drafting Ravens except for the quarterback because after long debate between me and Paul, I pointed out it doesn't matter how many good wide receivers you have. If one person has Lamar Jackson and the rest have the aforementioned Devin Leary and Cooper Rush, it's not quite a fair game.
Yeah. Somebody gets Lamar Jackson. I was trying to come up with a way that we could make it fair. Like the first pick gets Lamar Jackson, then they don't pick for like 5 more rounds. Like you are at such an advantage if you get Lamar Jackson and he's the only quarterback.
Because if no one's throwing the ball, what does it matter? But also he can do everything else,
exactly.
as we've seen.
Yeah. We are going to draft 3 teams. I think we don't need to get into the bench. I think we can just draft
just the 10.
Just the 10.
Well, there is no bench.
There is no bench. Okay. Yeah. So,
according to the website, they will have 10 players.
Gotcha. So just the 3 teams of 10 players each. Let's run through these pretty quickly. We already did our heads. We already did heads versus tails. A random name generator in order to determine the draft order here. Gianna, you won the first overall pick.
I thought Jonas.
No, wait. Jonas won the first overall pick. That's right. I've already forgotten. Jonas won the first overall pick. Gianna won the second overall pick. I won the third overall pick. It's a snake draft. Yes. So you're looking for quarterback, a center, and of course
top overall will be Lamar Jackson. You can't scramble past the line of scrimmage in flag football. but you can scramble around, and it certainly helps to have the would-be 3-time MVP on your side.
Yeah. Gianna, second overall pick.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Not only because he also has some scramble ability and the arm, but I think he's a good representative for USA.
That's true.
Not Jaden Daniels.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
I did. If we
You
were
just want to have somebody to pretty look
also
at.
or are you saying Jaden Daniels? No. Also prefacing, we are doing this for this year, like this timing. We're not looking ahead to 2028, because if we were, Jaden Daniels would probably be the pick because he's younger and will be more in his prime.
Exactly. All right. Well, quarterback off the top. Now I have back-to-back picks. And to me, that makes me think that I can wait on a quarterback because you guys won't be taking them particularly early unless you want to box me out for some unknown reason. So I am going to take 2 skill position players here, and these have to be Ravens players. The only player where you can get somebody from another roster is quarterback. So I'm going to take the 2 Ravens wide receivers. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers, and I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman here. And that goes back to Gianna.
I think I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton.
Okay.
Because he can do anything. And when I say anything, I mean, if we needed him in a pinch, I would put him in for offense as well.
All right. Kyle Hamilton is off the board. Jonas, you have back-to-back picks here.
This is tough. I was really hoping Kyle Hamilton would still be available. I guess I'll go with Nate Wiggins just as a pure speed guy.
You love Nate Wiggins. You had him ranked in your top 10 in our top Ravens rankings for this year. So,
and let's also go with Mark Andrews, who I think could be your snapper, center, whatever we're calling it. Just a bit of a wider body for potential pass rushers to get around. And then I think as someone who would use my limited athleticism when I was playing pickup football back in the day, I think height and size does matter. You just want to be in a position where you can box people out. And I think Mark Andrews, by virtue of his size, his catch radius, could be a guy who can just, win physically at the catch point in a way that, Zay and Rashad would have a more difficult time doing.
Gianna?
For that exact reason, I'm going to go DeAndre Hopkins because I feel like, I know it's probably different, but I watched a lot of girls slag the past 2 years. Shout out the Ravens and their girls slag program. But a lot of times you think you have yards after the catch, and then you make these great moves and someone's standing back there with the flag. So to me, it's important just to be able to win that 50-50 ball and just get downfield.
Yeah. All right. I already took 2 weapons here. So I'm going to get my center snapper. I'm going to go with Patrick Ricard here. I know that may be a little bit early, but look at all the things he can do on the football field. And I feel like for flag football,
not on the flag football field.
I don't know. He's going to snap the ball for me. He could block, although the blocking rules are weird. You have to have your hands behind your back, something like that. And then my next pick, I'm going to get my quarterback just because I don't want to get boxed out here. I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels.
Okay,
Gianna, back to you.
Talking about.
Your roster includes Jalen Hurts, Kyle Hamilton, DeAndre Hopkins so far.
I think I want to go. This is a risk because we haven't seen him in an NFL game yet. But things are very fast because they have to throw the ball so quickly and there's no D-line rushing for the most part. And so I think I want Malachi Starks with his intelligence, but also he can catch a ball as well based on his catch against our guy Bo Nix.
Leaping interception.
First game. Yep.
All right, Jonas, back-to-back picks again.
I'm just going to go with speed on these next 2. So I think I'm going to go with Devontae Walker for my first wide receiver. And then maybe somewhat controversially for my designated rusher, I think I'm just going to go Mike Green. He's got great bend. You would think, you look at his highlights last year, his ability to kind of mirror quarterbacks as they get out of structure. I think he would play very, very well in flag football.
Gianna?
So they don't often show a running back position, but you can rush the ball. And I think because of his speed and agility, as well as the fact that he's proven to be a part of the rush or the passing game, I'm going to go with Justice Hill.
Justice Hill. All right. Well, I've taken only offense, so I feel like at some point I should probably take defense, and that's why I'm going to take Marlon Humphrey with my next pick. I have no idea how his game would translate to flag football. Couldn't tell you. Is there there's a slot position, I would assume. So he could play in the slot. He could play on the outside, but I'm just getting a ball hawk as he was last year, maybe not in previous seasons. So I'm getting a cornerback there. And then next, I'm going to go back to the defense as well. And I'm going to take another edge rusher here. I'm going to go with Odafe Owe so that I have somebody who can get to the passer as well. All right, Gianna, your roster has Jalen Hurts, Kyle Hamilton, DeAndre Hopkins, Malachi Starks, Justice Hill. I so far have Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Patrick Ricard, Jaden Daniels, Marlon Humphrey, Odafe Owe, and Jonas has Lamar Jackson, Nate Wiggins, Mark Andrews, Devontae Walker, and Mike Green. Gianna, the pick is yours.
I think that I will go with I'm between Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kohler because they serve similar roles, but
I try to give you as much time as possible by reading out every roster.
I know. I was trying to figure out who was left though. I might go with Isaiah Likely. But he's not as good in the blocking game as Charlie Kohler, but I think he can serve the purpose of since you're just a body getting in the way, you can't actually like block with your hands, and he has a little bit more catching ability, like longer arms and everything. Not that Charlie can't catch, but
sure.
I think just for the sake of flag, I'll go with Isaiah Likely.
Jonas, back-to-back picks here.
I think I'm going to go with Keaton Mitchell, just doubling down on hashtag team speed. We've seen him in training camp already beat a bunch of guys on those patented wheel routes. I think he's a guy who you maybe give the ball to on those rare designated handoffs in flag and have some fun with. Back to the defense. You know what? It's not going to be a physical sport, so there's less chance of wear and tear. So I think it's a smart play at this point to just go with Jair Alexander. He's going to bring some nastiness to the position. Going to get in. I guess you can't really press and jam guys in a flag football, right? So, maybe I overthought that one, but
maybe he'll smack talk. I don't know.
If all you need for him is to play, the 6 or 7 total games of a potential gold medal run to the flag football Olympics, then why not get Jair Alexander?
All right, Gianna.
Similar pick. I'm gonna go with Cheeto.
All right.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name.
Chidobe Awuzie is Gianna's pick. That leaves me with back-to-back picks here. I am going to take Derrick Henry with my next pick because imagine that stiff arm in flag football. I mean, the whole point is that people are trying to grab your flag, and if he is pushing you away with his stiff arm, that makes it nearly impossible, right?
Well, if you have like Kyle Hamilton long arms, maybe his arms, his outreaches Derrick Henry's.
That's true. That's fair. And then I guess I should probably go defense, but boy, there really are not a whole lot of options in the secondary here, are there? Are we considering Ardarius Washington?
I was going to ask that too, but because of that,
a healthy player or not, Jonas?
Sure, why not?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to take a healthy Ardarius Washington as my safety. Again, you're talking about a small guy, so who the heck knows how his game is going to translate to flag football, but he's the best player available. Gianna? How many players do we have on each roster now? We are flying through these.
I have 8.
Okay. So I just took.
You got to make sure that you get 5 on each side.
True. Or you could have guys who play both ways.
Exactly.
It's a possibility.
Which is what I have thought about. I think I want to get a rusher, and Odafe and Mike Green are both off the board, right?
Yep.
I think maybe Tavius, he's a big body,
okay.
And I also feel like I have no proof to this, but I do feel like if you needed him to switch to center in a pinch because there's no room for a bench for injuries, I feel like he could make some good catches.
Sure. Jonas?
I think you messed up here, Gianna, because I think if we're talking about just tracking guys down in the open field, then why not get Trenton Simpson in this case? So he's going to be my 4th defensive player, I do believe, or 5th defensive player, perhaps. And my next weapon, I don't know. I guess Tylan Wallace at this point. Probably not a whole lot of options that are out there, and I think that's it for my team. So on offense, I have Lamar at quarterback, Mark Andrews at receiver, Devontae Walker receiver, Tylan Wallace at receiver, and then Keaton Mitchell as the kind of weapon. And then on defense, Mike Green, Trenton Simpson, Jair Alexander, And Nate Wiggins, is that only 9? Or
Yeah,
10?
you only
That's
have 9.
So one more.
Okay.
You have one more pick, Jonas. And Gianna
You're
has
probably right. I
2 more
didn't think
picks.
about the fact that you have to track someone down. I need another receiver. And
Too bad I
Tez
took
is
Zay
still
Flowers and
out
Rashad
there?
Bateman.
Tez is still out there, right?
No, I took him. But
You took
I do
Tez.
think one guy I probably actually would have wanted over Tylen Wallace is LeJohntay Wester because of his joystick kind of ability.
True.
Yes, but have
He
you
could be
seen his
very helpful.
hands?
If you just
I
kind
guess
of,
he
if
would
you're
probably
getting
have
enough
good-
touches
yeah.
for him, like in a design touch way where you don't have to overly rely on him because you have D-Hop, because you have Isaiah
Yeah.
Likely.
I do think, yeah, I'm not seeing any others because I was going to go Tez, but he's already taken.
Yeah.
So I want another wide receiver. We'll go LeJohntay Wester.
That makes sense. I can see him being more useful in flag than in the NFL. And then I have my final back-to-back picks here. I think I'm pretty much covered on offense unless I want Patrick Ricard to play the other way. So on defense, I'm going to take Roquan Smith. Nobody has taken him yet. So I don't, again, have no idea how his game is going to translate, but he's cerebral enough that, maybe he'll pick off some passes. And then do you think I should go defensive line here? Should I take like Nnamdi Madubuike, or is that going to hurt me because he can't really drop back into coverage?
Yeah,
Long pause.
I think you want someone who can mirror these quarterbacks. I think if you're not getting someone who's just fast, you want someone as big and long as Kyle Hamilton just to get those hands up and disrupt the quarterback from.
We get it.
downfield.
Kyle Hamilton's the perfect pick for this draft. I probably screwed it up by not taking him first. I get it.
I think you screwed up by not taking a quarterback last when you had you could have run the entire board.
I thought that you guys might take like
Another quarterback?
another quarterback to be just like everything.
No, we're not that big.
They would have to be able to catch.
I've done these drafts before and I've been boxed out and it is the worst. But then again, that's the NFL. There's a no limit to the number
I think
of
the
quarterbacks.
problem is that there's no bench.
Yeah,
So
exactly. All right. Well, then I'll go ahead and take another cornerback here. I'll go with Jalen Armour Davis.
Okay. Also, TJ Tampa available if you want.
I was going to say TJ
Yeah,
Tampa.
but I'll go with Jalen Armour Davis because maybe he's a safety too. So who knows how those skills will
That's what
work.
they say about TJ. TJ's a little bit more of a risk. Well, Jalen's been hurt, but we've at least seen a little bit of him. TJ, we haven't seen like at all. So it's a bit of a risk, but
And
again,
Jonas took Jair Alexander pretty high. So let's not talk about injury risk here.
true. And I do, if we're talking about frame, like long arms and stuff, I feel like TJ is kind of lanky.
All right. So TJ
How
Tampa.
are we ending out this draft?
Jonas, you have Mr. Irrelevant.
Well, as I wrote in my title loop feature, he has 4.4 speed, so I will be taking him. No, I'm not going to take him.
I would have lost it, Jonas.
There's not a whole lot of options for me here.
Do you need somebody offense or defense?
I believe I need a 5th defensive player and
Sure.
ideally someone.
Got Sanusi, Bo.
Yeah.
Bo.
Well, let's just go with the turf. Let's go with Bo Braid.
Oh,
All right.
Bo.
That does it for our draft here. Jonas, you want to read out your team?
Sure. On offense, Lamar, Mark Andrews, Devontae Walker, Keaton Mitchell, and Tylen Wallace. And on defense, Nate Wiggins, Mike Green, Trenton Simpson, Jair Alexander, I forget if I said that, and Bo Braid.
Gianna?
I've got Jalen Hurts at quarterback, DeAndre Hopkins, Justice Hill, Isaiah Likely, and LeJohntay Wester on my offensive side. And on my defense side, I have Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks, Cheeto Wizier, Tavius Robinson, and TJ Tampa.
And on offense for me, I have quarterback Jaden Daniels. I have Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, Patrick Ricard, and Derrick Henry. And then on defense, I have Marlon Humphrey, Odafe Owe, Ardarius Washington, Roquan Smith, and Jalen Armour Davis. I got boat raced.
And
I hate my team.
I think you should have cleaned up easily based on how the draft strategy
All right,
played out.
make it
Taking
really.
Patrick Ricard with your 3rd overall pick because you liked his girthiness is just a terrible decision.
All right, so I overestimated the importance of the center position. You got to snap the ball.
Yeah. Have you seen how easily they snap it in? I mean, they don't.
Not really. My
do they even
issue
do it
was I
between the
haven't
legs,
watched
or
this.
is it side to side?
I haven't watched a second of flag football. I mean, I watched the girls' flag football, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's all I've seen. Flag football snap.
We don't need to waste time on the podcast to figure this out. I think it is a side. I read in the description you sent me, Gianna, that it is a skill to snap the football.
I mean,
In
it
flag
is a
football.
skill.
Good thing you took Patrick Ricard, someone who has never snapped a football.
Oh, I blew it, guys. I absolutely blew it. All right. Well, we are around the corner from real football, not flag football, although in a few years we're going to be
a
calling.
few years around the corner.
Yeah, we're a few years around the corner from flag football as well. Stay tuned for all of our training camp coverage on the BaltimoreBanner.com, where you can subscribe $1 for 6 months.
And let us know whose team you're picking to win.
No, I think they're good. I think you kind of. I think we're good without everybody's opinions on that. At Jonas_Shaffer is his handle. At Giana_Jade is her handle. They have great coverage for you all throughout training camp, and then throughout the regular season as well, and hopefully a playoff run too. Subscribe to the Banner Ravens podcast anywhere that you get your podcast, and write us a 5-star review, and I will read it out here on the show. For Jonas Shaffer and Giana Han, I'm Paul Mancano.